Hello, hello. Welcome to Sobriety Bestie. This video is about my most profound spiritual experience to date, also known as the first time I took psilocybin mushrooms or magic mushrooms. Yes, so let's get into it. I believe it was 1992, which is like 30 years ago. I was 16 years old at the time. And I didn't know. So this, just for context, this is like before social media. This is before Google. There might have been an internet in some version. I certainly wasn't on the internet in 1992. I just didn't know much about mushrooms. And I had one friend who did, and she had taken them before. And so she told me from her experience, she gave me 3 rules. And she said, so you're going to take mushrooms, like it's going to be fun. Number 1, don't look in a mirror. That's a bad idea. Number 2, you might like see cartoons or be a cartoon. That's totally fine. And I forget the 3rd rule she told me, I don't remember. I mean, it was 30 years ago. And so I had no idea, like, okay, I'll be in a cartoon world, like don't look in mirrors. I didn't get it. And so what we ended up doing, me and 2 friends, is we ate them all. We did not know anything about dosage. I did not know anything about psychedelics, really. I didn't understand anything about psychedelics. And so it ended up being the most profound spiritual experience in my life, probably because it was like a massive dose, very ignorantly going into this as this naive 16-year-old. And so what happened was, like, we ate them in a park. Then we started to feel it, right? And we're like, oh, we better like get home. Like we just had this sense that we needed to be at like my friend's house. So we started walking to her house, which was a couple of miles away. So several kilometers away that we went walking. And while we were walking past the movie theater, it was like these black and white cat clocks, like they're called Kit Kat clock. I never knew that. I just Googled that to do this video, but I'll show it here. So there's like black and white cat clock, like we became those, like I was one of those cats. And we were walking across, like there was this like squares on the movie theater ground, and every other one was like illuminating, like in the Billie Jean music video, Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. Now remember, this was 1992 that this happened, so these things were more relevant back then, or more current, I guess. And so we were suddenly these cat clocks, like snapping our hands, and we were in the Billie Jean movie theater, and things were like, it was just kind of like, at that point it was like weird, but like fun. Like I had no idea where this was gonna go. And I'll speed forward to like, to the intensity, to the peak of it, right? So we get to her house, and like we get to the bed. We're having some challenges and some difficulties. There's the 3 of us. We're all probably equally as high, or we split them all equally. And we're not okay. Like we just had this feeling, like I had this sense of like, this isn't drugs. Like what's happening right now isn't drugs. We are beyond drugs. We were beyond my understanding of drugs. That's for sure. So I felt like something was wrong. Something went wrong. Something broke. Something is like terribly wrong. And like, we need help. And that was like, my feeling was like, this is like so beyond, like something is wrong here. We need assistance. And we were all 3 in my friend's bed, and like, teenagers. And at one point I was like taking my bra off underneath my shirts, and I had these 2 long sleeve shirts that I was trying to get this bra off underneath, and they were both striped, and they're like, there's snakes all over you. So I was like, fuck. So I managed to get the bra off, and we were all like under the covers with the sheets up to our necks, like, like, okay. And I had these, like, I guess I had a rule, like if I hold the sheets up here, the snakes can't get us. At one point, my friend's mom called, and we were at her house. Her mom was at work. Her mom actually worked in the emergency room. And my thought at the time, or my sense, was that we actually needed to go visit her mom, or have her mom come to us. Like we needed to like walk into the emergency room. We needed help. And so when she's talking to her mom, she's totally lying to her. She was just like, as a teenager might do, right? She was like, no, Mom, everything's fine. We're just at home. Everything is fine. And I grabbed the phone from her. We're not okay. We ate a lot of mushrooms. We need help. Send help. Send help. We're not okay. She grabs the phone back. I'm not worried about her being grounded or any of that. I'm just like, we actually needed help, and I just like knew that. And so the mom couldn't leave work. She ended up sending her other daughter, who was older, over. And at some point in the journey, like her older sister came and like helped calm us down, talk us down. Her older sister had done psychedelics and mushrooms many times before, so it was actually perfect. But like when we were there all under the covers, my eyes must have been closed. I don't really recall. But the next thing I know, I'm like, it's like as if I'm shot out in space. My body no longer exists. My persona, my personality, my ego, none of that was my reality anymore. I am consciousness floating in space. If you have taken mushrooms before and like shot past the moon, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you're like, what the fuck? So I was like out floating somewhere in the cosmos, maybe past the Milky Ways. I'm not really sure. It was maybe my first time there. I'm not really sure. Probably not. Probably been there before. Anyway, like what was so clear to me, being out there, experiencing my existence, existing out there, and then slowly coming back into my body. Like there was a moment where like her sister was like, write down anything that you know, and I didn't know anything. Like I had no mind. And eventually I just drew pictures, and then eventually I wrote, my name is Kirsten. And I started crying because I was like, oh my God, that's the first thing back in this world, like back in this life that I understand. Like coming back to ego, coming back to self, whatever it is, right? But I just remember writing, my name is Kirsten, oh my God, and it was like such a revelation, like I'm a human. And really like what the mantra that came to me while I was in space in the cosmic, my consciousness was in the cosmos, was nothing matters, nothing matters, nothing matters. That was like the mantra that kept repeating in my head. Nothing matters, nothing matters, nothing matters. Not meaning that there isn't things that actually matter, but the things that I was worried about in my life, the stressors of my 16-year-old life, those were not significant. And as I was thinking about making this video for you today, which at the time of making this video, I've never talked about any of this stuff on the internet before, so it still feels really like sacred and special, and yeah, but I just feel inspired to like, I don't know, be more honest and be more like share to you like I would a bestie, right? About like what actually happened, like what I've been through, and like what life is like for me, and hopefully for you too, like tell me in the comments. And so as I was remembering, like, my name is Kirsten, as I was remembering, like, I went to high school and I was, you know, a junior in high school, and these memories were coming back, or this, like, understanding of my existence. It was, like, this clear, like, the mantra of nothing matters was, like, so apparent. And I had this view on my life, that was, like, the stuff that I'm worried about, like taking the SATs, the standardized test to get into colleges, like studying for that, or the test I had at school coming up, or my day-to-day like challenges seemed like they were irrelevant. And as I was making this video for you, thinking about, you know, like my friend got grounded, the one whose house we were at, who I grabbed the phone and told her mom that we needed help, she got grounded. And her mom threatened to tell like my parents and the other girl's parents, but she never did. And like, I don't know if that was the correct response or not. I mean, she probably made the best decision she could at the time, right? But like, I didn't need to be grounded. I had like just like tapped into some of the secrets of the universe. I needed like help processing it. I needed to integrate. Like I had just like expanded like to this new dimension, and I needed help understanding like, what the fuck? Like, how do I live now? How do I go back to high school knowing what I know, having experienced what I experienced? Like it was really, really wild, you know? And now I think like 30 years later, did it matter that I told her mom? Is she still worried that I told her mom? Did nothing matters? It didn't matter that I told her mom. And I don't mean that like almost sounds like arrogant, like she got in trouble and I didn't. But like now it doesn't matter to like my friend back then that I told her mom. Like that was insignificant. We actually did need help at that time. But just the general idea of nothing matters, like the stuff that we stress about, like don't sweat the small stuff kind of thing. Like what we're worried about today likely won't matter in a year from now, a month from now, a week from now, or 30 years from now. Some stuff does matter. I'm not saying nothing matters at all. This isn't like none of it has any meaning or anything like that. You can put meaning on things and find meaning in things and create meaningful things. But a lot of what we stress about now doesn't matter. And having that experience of being a soul outside of a body, like up in the cosmos or wherever I was, that's what I make up because that's what it looked like. That's what it felt like. That's what made sense to me. Like this, like we are souls inside bodies, right? Like we are having this spiritual experience in human form. And so having that experience at that time, like it blew my mind. Well, literally my mind was blown. I had no mind, but like on what's actually happening here and what's possible. And I had no way as a 16-year-old, without any spiritual guides or mentorships, without the internet, of really like processing that, understanding that, integrating that any way outside of myself. I mean, I talked to like my friends about it, like, what did you see? What happened for you? But like, there was no like guidance or understanding or way to even like integrate that in a way that actually helped me evolve so much. Like, it just kind of freaked me out. And my attitude was like, I'm scared. Like, I don't want to go there again necessarily. Like, what was that? What happened? You know, I thought something was broken or wrong. And now I just know that's actually like a really strong trip. That's actually what magic mushrooms do. They shoot you beyond the moon, or they can. And so I have taken mushrooms a couple of times since then, since that experience in 1992. This was all in the 90s that I did this. And it was very much a smaller dose where I didn't actually like lose touch with like my humanness. Like, I didn't actually leave my body and forget that I'm a human, or, you know, move beyond the mind, right? It was more like fun and then super like mind expanding, soul blowing, consciousness shattering experience, or expanding experience, mind shattering. And I was thinking about like, what was that third thing that woman warned me about besides don't look in mirrors, you might turn into a cartoon, everything might be a cartoon. And the third thing I couldn't remember, I Googled, and what I saw was something really helpful. That was like 3 things: know your source and your dose. Like, this was the recommendation on taking magic mushrooms on my Google search just now today. Know your source and your dose. But I didn't know anything about dose. I just ate them all. Like, I don't necessarily recommend that, but I don't regret that I did that either, you know? I just think it would have been helpful to have like a guide, somebody who could have told me at that time when we were all freaking out, like, this is normal. This is what it is. You're in exactly the right space. This is what it is. Embrace the journey, let go, relax, breathe into it. Like, something like that would have been helpful. The other second thing when I Googled it was be in the right mental state. That would have helped my mental state to know that this is, to understand what I was embarking on. You know, I didn't know that it was different than smoking pot or like getting drunk. Like, I didn't understand that it was a whole, like, there was dimensions and I'd be in a different one, or what that even meant. And then control the setting. So that, like, so know your source and dose, be in the right mental state, and control the setting. I think that sounds like a lot better advice than I got. I don't like, I'm not like trying to like say that like what happened to me was wrong or should have been different. It was perfectly divinely like how it should have been. Like, it really impacted me and changed me. I never forgot the lessons that I learned that night. Like, I didn't really know what to do with them, but you can't forget that kind of an experience. You know, it was one of the most powerful experiences of my life to date. It's the most profound spiritual experience that I've had to date. Understanding at like beyond like anything that my mind could even think about, having the experience of being a soul outside of my body without a mind. Like, that is like, wow. You know, as I say that to you, if you haven't had that experience, probably sounds weird. If you've had that experience, you're like, been there, sister, been there, bestie. And so I'm not recommending taking mushrooms, not taking mushrooms. I just wanted to share like my first experience, my first spiritual experience, especially having it at 16 years old. It really just like it was an undeniable, like, mind-blowing experience that I could never deny that I had been there before. And so I always had this knowing, even though like when I was in the depth of my alcohol addiction, like, I always had this knowing that there's something more going on here. Like, I don't know what it is. And I haven't been back to that place, but I've been there. I've been on that journey. I went somewhere. Where was that? What was that? You know, you can't forget that. You can't forget it. So has anybody like been traveling through the cosmos with their consciousness like me? Tell me about it in the comments. So that was the story of my first experience on psilocybin mushrooms. I also made another video recently about I've changed my mind about plant medicine. You could watch that video up here. I used to be really open to exploring the mind and psychology. I was always really into psychology. In fact, you know, it's really funny. I'll tell this really quick story. So I took this class my freshman year, so 18 years old, at San Francisco State University, called Drugs and Society. And we went around everybody asking, why are they in the class? And everyone was saying pretty much the same thing. And this was in 1995. Everybody was basically saying drugs are obviously bad. I don't know why anybody would do drugs. And I'm in this class to like understand why anybody would ever do drugs. They're clearly bad. Like, that was like what everyone said. And then they get to me and I'm like, I'm just like really curious. So like if you're in a psychedelic trip, for example, like let's say on mushrooms or acid, and you see something like this giant spider or something beautiful or God, like what is the mechanism in the brain that creates that? Like how does the psyche experience that? Like what's happening with the mind and the body and the soul where that experience is very, very real? Like what's the mechanism happening there? And everyone's looking at me like I'm insane, and the teacher's like, yeah, speak to me after class. You know, she actually asked me to be her teacher's assistant. So she might have been in the same curiosity of consciousness, the same curiosity of psychology that I was in. So I think it's totally normal, like it's normal for me at least, to be curious about consciousness and expansion and why we're here and who we are and why we're here. So I will leave it there. Yeah. All right, have a beautiful day. As always, I wish you much peace and freedom on your healing journey, and the journey really of finding out who you are and why you are here. Ah!